right, welcome everybody. Thank you for taking the time today to join us on this webinar, Spring Cleaning with Vault. So spring cleaning might conjure up images of dusting out the cobwebs and performing some deep needed scrubbing and cleaning and probably the most undesirous tasks of all. But hopefully what we'll show you today is that, spring cleaning doesn't have to be that. Show you some of the cool tools that you can use to trim and your vault up and make it fit. And just to get your vault organized and functioning better for you and your team. And also to introduce you to a new tool that we have developed for the purposes of SQL maintenance that will help automate some maintenance tasks, things that most Vault administrators probably aren't even aware of that either need to be done or whether they're being done or not. So, and sometimes that can even conjure up some scary images of, I have no idea if my SQL's working correctly, if it's purged and backed up and everything, and we really don't know. And so we've got a cool tool that we'll talk about and kind of unveil today. So some of the tools we'll talk about purging the vault. That's a big one. That is kind of can be a spring cleaning thing, or it can be done on a regular basis. The rename tool, moving files and folders, setting your files to obsolete, library and workspace cleanup, checking in, checked out files, adding those projects to Vault that seem to be lingering outside and never get added into the Vault, and then finally our ASTI Vault Maintenance Kit. So let's start off with the purge of the Vault. So what we do with Purge is we purge file versions by specifying criteria to determine which files are removed. Note that access to the Vault database is blocked during this task. So you want to make sure that you do this during off hours time, or if it's something that needs to be done during office hours, that you kick all your users out of Vault and let them know that you'll notify them when Vault is available again. It will not be available until this purge task is completed. So depending on the size of your Vault, that could also take a while. Then we specify the conditions that must be met in order for a file version to be kept in the Vault. And versions that do not meet the specified criteria are then removed from the Vault. All right, so the steps to do this. In the Adms Console, this is something that's typically done by your Vault administrator, or could be IT, but it's done from the Adms Console. So on your Vault server, you select a Vault and go to Actions, and then we go to Purge Files. And in the Vault Purge dialog box, we would then turn on the check boxes next to each of the selection rules to determine the data to be purged. Fourth, we're prompted to confirm the locking of the Vault during the process. We click yes, and then finally a dialog box is displayed indicating the operation was successful, and we click OK to end out of that. So we'll take a look at a little bit of the detail of the dialog box. In the Purge Files dialog box, we have the ability to purge via life cycles. And that criteria is defined when you create or edit your lifecycle definitions. There's a dialog box in there that you can check on which versions of lifecycle files in those states that you want to keep. Or you can choose to purge versions of files that are not controlled by lifecycles, which is more of a manual purge. In the Vault version purge dialog box, you turn on the checkbox next to each of the selection rules to determine the data to be purged. So you don't have to do all of these. In the example here, all the boxes are checked. You can choose which box to check. So if you wanted just to purge all versions except the last 5, then you can select just that box, or just the versions older than so many days, or all versions except those with a comment in them that such as maybe you wrote in there released or something like that, or do not purge. You would put that comment in there and then run the purge from that. So you specify those criteria, and then you run the purge. Okay. And next, let's talk about the rename tool. When renaming files, the rename wizard may not update the related files which reference the files being renamed until you get the files outside of Vault. So just a little tidbit to remember, that if you use the rename tool, you may not see some of the references being updated until you get them outside the Vault with a get or a checkout or something like that. So, but the rename tool is going to be used to kind of streamline your information in Vault. So you may have files that you've started either a numbering scheme with. You can use the rename tool to do a numbering scheme, but maybe some of your files have been sitting there a while and you haven't done the rename tool on those yet. So this might be a good time to do your spring cleaning and use the rename tool and get some of these projects into that numbering scheme or into a new format that you have been meaning to get it to use. So a couple other rules here. New file names can be specified, or you can use the naming scheme that you've set up for renaming. When you're all done, a report is generated for export. So you get a report on what files were renamed, and that report can be exported. You only want to use the rename wizard to rename files. Don't want to try to do it any other way. The rename wizard is specifically designed to work with Vault and to keep links together so that the Vault can manage and track everything. Another rule is that files must be checked into the Vault before renaming. Lastly, you could also use the copy design wizard in order to rename files. That's always an option in using the copy design, is to rename a file. So it could be done there as well. All right, let's go back and take a look here at our snapshot of all of our tools. The next one we're going to cover is move files and folders. So we can use the move command to move files from one location to another inside the Vault. We could use drag and drop. So we could just grab files and drag them and drop them from one folder location to another. Those are a couple of options there. The file referenced in the folder will be updated when getting outside of Vault. Couple of caveats here. The library folders in a Vault cannot be moved, and we get this from selecting the Edit menu, and we can select Move to Folder, and then we specify the new location if we're not using the drag and drop method. So one of the things to note here when you're moving files and folders is or let's go back. Actually, I want to talk about the rename. When we're renaming files and folders, you might have a file that you've renamed in Vault, but in your local workspace, you still have the old version. So you would use another tool to do Workspace Sync. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, to kind of clean up your workspace to make sure that you've got all the correct files. So that's just something to think about as you're, and same thing with moving files and folders. If I move files that I have in a location in my local workspace, but I've moved them in Vault, then I'll have to do a new get on those files because I won't have them in that location. When you move the files and folders in Vault, it does not do any moving in your local workspace. All right, the next one is going to be setting files to obsolete. This one I put in there just because it might be a need to set a file to obsolete that's no longer in use and you just haven't moved it over from the proper life cycle in your life cycle schemes. Just moving that file over to the obsolete to get it out of your data flow so that downstream users aren't actually pulling up obsolete data and trying to use that for purchasing or manufacturing or the like. The other thing that you want to consider here is when you make a file obsolete is who can view it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap on over to Vault here. I think I have it loaded and up and running. Let's see if I do. I do. All right, so I'm going to slip on over here to Vault, and we're going to take a look at that. I've got in my designs folder, I've got a test folder here, and I'm currently logged in as administrator to this Vault. So I'm logged into administrator, and I've got some files here that I've set to obsolete. Well, what I am as an administrator, I've given myself the ability to see those obsolete files. And so, I know what their state is. I know that in order to use them, I need to bring them out of the state back into work in progress or back to released or something like that, whatever my workflow is, in order to be able to use them again. But regular users, probably not going to want them to be able to see those obsolete files. So something that you want to consider there is, when another user logs in, what are they going to see? So I got a screenshot. We'll pop back over here and take a look at this here. So here's a screenshot of the administrator view using the flexible release process. I'm able to see all of the obsolete files. In the second screenshot here, typical designer or engineer, files are not visible to me. And again, this is in the flexible release process. What I did on purpose was I left this design representations process. This file here is a PDF file. It has a different lifecycle scheme in play, and so it's still visible to me because I did not go in and make any edits to who can view that. So you can see the difference, though, is, and that's something to consider as a Vault administrator is who do you want to be able to see what in what state. So another consideration is going to be for your Vault thin client, your document consumers who typically use the Vault thin client. You're going to want to change the permissions on them to not be able to see obsolete files. And that will also prevent them from seeing previously released files of that drawing. So if a file is obsolete, typically that design is basically gone away and they don't need to even see previous released files. So something also to consider there. All right, so let's go back and look at the next one. So library cleanup. So the server console, the ADMS, manages the Content Center libraries. The server console, your Autodesk Content Center can be installed on your ADMS server. and it manages all those libraries. So you would use the server console in order to do all the management here. So listed on this slide are things that you can do with your library in order to clean it up. First one is create new read-write or read-only libraries. So we have the ability to create your own read-write or read-only libraries that you would have to be able to either put data in or copy data from Content Center existing libraries to your read-write library to make edits to those. You can also delete a library that's not being used. So if you decide that you've got a Japanese standard or a Great Britain standard or Australian standard that you don't want to use anymore, you never use it, rather than it taking up the Content Center space in the Vault database, you can go ahead and delete that library. You can also detach a library from the Content Center and use that dialog box from the configuration when you do not want to make a particular library available to users. If you've got a library that has not been attached, but you want to go ahead and attach it, you can use the attach functionality. And you can also import a library from another source and make it available within the configuration dialog box in Autodesk Inventor. And last two, you've got export. You can export a library for use elsewhere, and you can also make a copy of a library. And that's kind of the caveat to the top one. If you create a new read-write library, then you can copy a library to that read-write library and then go and make your edits to that, and therefore giving yourself a custom library to edit for your needs. So library cleanup, pretty important for your spring cleaning for Vault. The next item is your workspace cleanup, and we kind of alluded to this a little bit ago when we were talking about the rename tool and the move files and folders. But your workspace can easily get out of sync with Vault, and will do so even on just a state change, right? When you change from a work in progress to review, all of a sudden your workspace is out of sync, and the easiest way to get that in sync is to do a get. Apologize for the have a jet fly over. Apologize for that if that's interfering here. So, but you can use the Workspace Sync tool to do some workspace cleanup. And what you would do is you would select the files that you want to synchronize, and then you can select the Workspace Sync, or you can just select it outright and it'll sync the entire workspace with Vault. There's settings that you can click in there in the Workspace Sync tool to modify how things get synchronized with your local workspace, and then you can click Finish, and we'll take a look at that here. You can also get a summary report and generate that report. So let's go back here to Vault and just take a look. So here I can just do Workspace Sync, and it brings up a dialog box as it analyzes my Vault and analyzes my local workspace. And you can see that I've got files selected for a download overwrite. So files that already exist in my local workspace but are out of sync with what's in Vault. So you can see down here, it's kind of a preview of what's going to happen. I'm going to remove 0 files, so nothing's going to get removed from my local workspace, but I'm going to download 6 files. So I'll download these files, click Finish, let Vault do its thing. And there we go. We can see we have a successful download. I've got a couple of options here. I can save this report out. So if I need, to track these changes and just be able to validate or go back later and look at them, I can save them. I can actually send this to the vault and look at it at a later time, or I can print it out. So I have a couple of options there. I'll show you. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I've got a folder that I created called Workspace Sync, and in there I've got a CSV file that is actually checked out by somebody, but that CSV file was the report from a Workspace Sync, and I can see that file and look into the preview and see what was done, or I can open it from the vault here. Just to go ahead and click open, and I can see what was done in my last synchronization. Okay. All right. So Workspace Cleanup using the Workspace Sync is a great tool. Next, we're going to talk about checked in your checked out files. So here, it's just really a matter of being able to scour the vault and find out what files are checked out that have been left over and nobody's checked them back in after doing their processes. We all get in a hurry. We have lots of projects that we're working on, lots of files that we're making edits to, and sometimes we forget to follow the process of our workflows of checking our files back in and moving them forward. We might just get lazy and skip some steps, or just get too busy. So what we want to be able to do is, especially as a vault administrator, we want to be able to check, search for files that are checked out. So what you can do is you can use the advanced search under the find tool and search for files checked out by, and then under your condition would be is, and then you can specify a username. And then you can click search, and the results will display, and you'll know what files that user has checked out, and then you can work on getting those files checked back in. Or if you want to kind of get everybody, you can do a checked out by and just say the condition is not empty, and that will show you everybody's checked out files. The beauty here is that you can save your searches. So if you're not aware that you could do that, you could save your searches for future use. So let's jump back over to Vault. And what you can see over here on the left-hand side is My Search Folders. If I click on the plus sign here, you can see that I have some saved searches, and I can see who's got what checked out. So I can say, well, let's go to checked out by all. As soon as I click that, you can see that this one file is checked out, and I'm the one in my regular user who has that file checked out. So this is a checked out by all. That's what I named the search. If I go in here and edit the save search, you'll see here that the Boolean operation is checked out by is not empty. Okay, and so using the find now, I can do that, and then of course this is where you would save or file save as to update a search. So like if maybe you weren't looking for all files, maybe you were looking for only drawings or only inventor parts, something like that, you could specify the file extension, or it's a a drawing type or a designation of the file. And if you have that designation as a design file, all of those criteria can be added to create a Boolean operation so that you're only looking for design files and not every file in Vault. So some criteria that you can do and that you can edit there. So very powerful tool, very quick and easy. I can just click on this one. I can see there are no results. David Wolf doesn't have any files checked out. Jason Miles doesn't either. So you can just see how quick and easy that is to see what's going on. And it's also a good way to get a snapshot of potentially where you are in some of your projects, knowing who's got what checked out. So a good tool used by Vault administrators. But also a good tool to use for spring cleaning. All right, so the next one is adding projects to Vault. So we've all got some files or some projects out there that maybe we've started, or maybe we've even taken it further than just starting the project. We've actually got them into our design process, but maybe we're the only person working on them, or we have, some people working on different projects in that regard, but we need to get them into Vault. So this is another good spring cleaning tool, is get those projects that have not been added into Vault, get them into the controlled environment, get the life cycles applied, and start being able to properly track who did what, when they did it, and why they did it. And the best tool for that is going to be Autoloader, depending on the size of the project or how many projects that you may have in a folder. Autoloader would be the best tool to use. But if those files are in your local workspace anyway, then using your Vault project file can also just be a way to use Inventor or AutoCAD, whatever tool you've used to create those files, to just add those files into Vault through your CAD application. All right, so last but not least, we're going to talk about the new ASTI Vault Maintenance Kit. So this one is something that we've worked hard on, and especially now during this potential downtime due to the COVID-19 coronavirus, we have a perfect opportunity to perform some of the spring cleaning with Vault. While you're performing some of your Vault maintenance with maybe some of the tools that we've talked about here today, one question you may be asking, or if you're not, you should, is how is my SQL database doing? Is it healthy? Is it backed up? Is it optimized? Is it indexed? Or we might be saying, that's right, I forgot it uses SQL. I don't even know anything about it. I have no idea what's going on. So the other question would be, how in the world can you tell? How do you know? So my answer to you would be, well, it's not necessarily easy or obvious unless you're familiar with SQL databases and familiar with that interface and how to find that information out. Another factor that can make this difficult is that many of the firms are using SQL Express, which has limited functionality, and so in order to do any kind of Vault maintenance, it needs to be scripted anyway. So scripts have to be created, and we do this all the time when we're doing Vault implementations, setting up Vault maintenance. We've decided to take things a step further by creating a maintenance kit that we can install on your Vault servers that help perform maintenance for your SQL databases. So basically a maintenance plan is what this is. And a maintenance plan is basically a workflow of the tasks required to make sure that your database is optimized, regularly backed up, and free of inconsistencies. So this maintenance toolkit will help by creating these SQL maintenance plans and giving you notifications through email of their success, their completion, or if there are any errors. So you will know as a Vault administrator that your SQL is healthy or needs some help. All right, so we can install this kit for you on your SQL server and set up the notifications so that you'll know that you have your Vault backed up. The integrity checks are done. It's either indexed or re-indexed. Statistics updates, and you can see a sample email here in the slide that we have set up internally. And it's a very simplified one, just says no errors were detected during SQL maintenance. It lets us know everything's hunky-dory and working well. When we do setups for individual companies, we will sit down with you and prescribe what the email needs to say and what information would be in there. But we've already got these things automated and set up and ready to go. So this tool will help you be on top of your Vault maintenance and be in the know about its performance, and all without any effort or SQL knowledge on your part. You don't have to become a database expert to understand what's going on with your SQL. So the best way to get this going is to call your sales associate and let them know that you're interested in this maintenance kit, and then we will get with you and schedule a meeting to get this implemented for you. So we're really excited about this maintenance kit and how it can help all of our clients manage and maintain their Vault in a healthy way and know what's going on. And lots of times when there's an issue with Vault, and we get a call from a client, we might ask them questions like, well, how big is your database, or how big is your file store, or what error message were you getting, and they may really not know a whole lot, if anything. And this is going to help a Vault administrator know a whole lot more about their Vault and what's going on. So that's all I have. I want to thank you for your time. And Amy or Alyssa, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Yes, and we are going to open it up to questions now. I'm going to leave it open for a few minutes, but I know I did see some questions come through. So let me see. What do we got? Hold on. Okay, number one question, can the Vault be purged automatically or scheduled?
So, yes. So the Purge tool that we looked at today, obviously can be done from the Adms Console, by having somebody log in and manually do that purge. But yes, the purge can be automated because it can be scripted. So that's something we can help set up through this ASTI Vault Maintenance Kit, where we can set that purging to happen on a scheduled basis based on the criteria that you want set, and that way it's running regularly without any user interface. And so yes, it can be both scheduled and automated. Good question.
All right. Next question. How do we get a maintenance toolkit?
Oh, okay. So basically, like I said, we're just rolling this out, and so you would contact your sales associate, and we would get one of our Vault experts to excuse me, work with you, with your Vault administrator, to perform that install. We would perform that install for you, help you set up the email notifications and all of the permissions required on the SQL side of things to get the Vault maintenance to run and to send out the notifications. So we would need some information from probably your IT, creating a some email account so that those notifications can happen. But it's very minimal effort on your side at all. But we will do the install and then train you on how to use it and what it does, so that you know either how to read the emails if there's information more than what you want, just that hey, it's running smooth, or there's an error, check the log. So, but we'll get that installed and get you training.
All right, I love it. Dave, that's all the questions we're going to take today. Thank you so much for presenting on this. What a great presentation.
Thank you. Hope everybody enjoyed it.